there and welcome to Beyond the Limit. My name is Zainab Mohammed. With the Sustainable Development Goals Summit coming up in September, we sit with persons with disability who are championing for the achievement of SDG goals here in the country.
Thank you very much. My name is Alan Hubbard and I am a communications expert and a social communications expert where I train about inclusive media practices. But I also do social campaigns for organizations of persons with disabilities and organizations that want to communicate to persons with disabilities. Actually, it is the UN General Assembly that is happening, I think, if I'm not wrong, between the 17th, thereabout from the 14th all the way to the 18th of next month. And what basically the campaign is aiming to achieve is make sure that we remind stakeholders and different governments that they are leaving an important aspect of the society behind. And when I talk about an aspect of society, I'm particularly talking about persons with disabilities. When we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, this was sort of initiated in 2015, and we are already past the halfway mark, and there is not much. I'm not saying there isn't anything that has been done, but there has not been much development in terms of achieving what the Sustainable Development Goals have to achieve by 2030. Yeah. So our campaign basically is to hold leaders, world leaders, to account to what they said. It's famously known, #LeaveNoOneBehind. I believe, or we believe, the campaigners, as you have spoken to other people who are participating in the campaign, we believe that persons with disabilities are being left behind in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. We might know, but also we might not know. There is, throughout us conducting this campaign, we have realized there is next to zero awareness about the Sustainable Development Goals to persons with disabilities. So there has been a lack of awareness. So persons with disabilities might, one, have been left behind because they are not aware. But also the government might, different governments might be a little bit reluctant because they might not know how to make persons with disabilities preview to the Sustainable Development Goals. But also one challenge that I look at with the SDGs is there is no single SDG that speaks to disability. So probably the governments would say, if there is no SDG that speaks particularly to you, then you might be left. They can justify why they are leaving everybody behind. But when you look at the holistic nature of the SDGs, no government should have an excuse as to why they are not involving persons with disabilities in the achievement of the SDGs. Why not include them? Because they are also human beings. Persons with disabilities are human beings. So if we are talking about the general development of the world, why segregate? Why cluster people in classes? So I think that's why it is important, because everybody needs to be on the table, because we are all citizens of this universe or of the world. So everybody deserves to enjoy their rights and access fully. Yeah. First and foremost, you have to show willingness. And when you show willingness, then you will elicit interest from the other side. And when you show willingness, also persons with disabilities are willing to come to the table and remove the fear of you not knowing how to include them. Because I believe if you're willing, we will have a conversation. And as we are having a conversation, you will learn and understand how to include me better, because we are looking at so many different disabilities. We are not, disability is not you cannot have a blanket solution to all disabilities, because you have the blind, you have the deaf, you have those on the neurodiverse from the neurodiverse community. So you cannot say that I will have a blanket solution to include everybody. So you have to start with willingness. And once you're willing, then you can create a round table conversation where everybody can be able to share their views. And also the other thing that you could do, or that world leaders could do and everybody else can do, is as you're willing and as you're allowing me to speak, can you give an opportunity to what I'm sharing? Because most of the times we've seen, even in our country, you go to public participation, your views are taken, but once the final documents are produced, nothing that you talked about is in that document. So yes, you are willing, but also consider the views of the people that you want to include. I think if we start from there, then we will be able to make sure that everybody is included. Funding to make sure activities get done, the creation of awareness to make sure that people understand, I think those are secondary, because you can't do all of that when people are not willing to participate and you are not willing to include everybody. The SDGs are holistic. When you look at SDG number 1, ending poverty, every person is poor at their own threshold. Yeah, so we cannot say that you could only find poverty in the slums. So everybody is poor at their own threshold. When you look at SDG number 3 or number 2, thereabout, which speaks about access to clean water, and there's another one that talks about access to clean energy. All these SDGs are binding, so they affect everyone in the community. So organizations of persons with disabilities just need to be more deliberate and identifying the type of people, because from an organization point of view, you would have a demographic that you want to reach out to. The most important thing is you identify that demographic and then understand how am I going to be able to engage them meaningfully, and also look at the SDGs and be able to achieve what you have to achieve at the end of the day. I think it does not really matter to some extent who represents who. What matters is, has the message been driven home? Because the messenger, personally, by my philosophy, the messenger does not really matter. But if we really want to show the world that persons with disabilities are also able, if we are looking at it from that perspective, then let people with disabilities speak for themselves. But whoever delivers the message, as long as the message has been delivered, I think that's what's most important. Yeah. I cannot honestly give a scorecard, but even when you hear the people that you've been speaking to, they have told you that there hasn't been much that has been done. But also you'd also look at the angle of what aspects are you talking from, or what angles are you talking from. When you look at since the implementation of the 2010 Constitution, and the aspect of devolution, this has made sure that some services have been devolved to the counties. So people with disabilities at lower levels in the counties, they are getting services that they did not get probably 10 years ago. So I would say the government is doing its best. Let me not say its level best, but it's doing its best to make sure that everybody is included, but there is still much more that needs to be done. Yeah.
What about the private sector?
Yes. The private sector, I think the private sector and their capital, they could tend to come up and equalize the playing field. And there are some organizations that probably I might not be at liberty to mention that have really tried to make sure that there is the aspect of employment of persons with disabilities. So some private sector players are trying their level best, but also some of the things that they are raising is we do not have enough qualified persons with disabilities to take up these opportunities. And then that takes you to the question of what has the government done? Yes, the government has championed for inclusive education, but how qualitative is it, or how quantitative is it? So these are some of the questions that we always keep going back and forth. I think it's supposed to be holistic. The government plays its part. It makes sure that there are systems that persons with disabilities can get proper education, and as they exit that conveyor belt of education, there is a private sector player at the end of the conveyor belt that is saying, okay, you're out of school, I can give you an internship because you qualify to get this internship. But also there are some organizations of persons with disabilities now who have taken it upon themselves to make sure that they train people with disabilities to equip them with the requisite skills that they might not have gotten in school to make them ready to participate in economical empowerment. And goal number 8 speaks vehemently about the aspect of making sure that there is meaningful economic participation, because if you do not have if you're not involved economically, both from a jobs point of view and at a business, a person with a disability who has a business point of view, then you continue languishing in poverty, taking us to goal number 1. Yeah, so much still needs to be done, even as different sectors are trying to do their level best. I think we need to create more and more awareness, and the role of the media very important because media shapes society, literally. If we continue to see as many persons with disabilities in media, then probably slowly by slowly we are changing the narrative of how persons with disabilities are looked at in society. But it is not supposed to be only anchored in the media aspect. It is supposed to be anchored across all aspects of society. When you go to a school, a viewer who is watching us right now, they might not have ever gone to a school which has a person with a disability. So how do you expect this person to play magic when they meet with a person with a disability later on in their life? It will be pretty tough for them. I'm not putting them off of the hook, but if you've not engaged with something prior, you will tend to shy away from it. But if we make sure that things are sort of spread across, we will see persons with disabilities in the media, we see them in leadership, we see them in sporting activities, and all these things that I'm speaking about, they are inclusive. Then slowly by slowly we'll reach that threshold of creating awareness where nobody will be looked at in a certain way when they show up to look for opportunities, or when they are going on with their lives, their daily life activities.
Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Mwai Kibaki Convention Center, the premier events venue. Our state-of-the-art facilities are designed to meet all your needs, from large-scale conferences to intimate meetings and everything in between. Located in the heart of Thika, the Mwai Kibaki Convention Center offers stunning views of the city's skyline and is easily accessible from all major transportation hubs. Our facility features
bullets
ample
are
parking,
flying,
free
we
Wi-Fi,
tell you
advanced
who's
audio-visual
shooting
equipment,
and
our
why.
technical team is
Reporting
always
on
on
your
hand to
victories,
ensure your event
your
runs
health,
smoothly and seamlessly.
your money,
Don't take
your
our
security,
word for it. Make
your
your
past,
next event
present, and future.
unforgettable at the Mwai
We
Kibaki
are
Convention
interested in
Center.
telling the
Contact us
stories
today
of
for bookings
creativity,
and
hard
reservations.
work,
Email
and
multimedia
resilience
at
that you are known
mke.ac.ke or call us
That
at 0708
is our job.
212204
This
or
is my job.
0727
My name is Victor
1733
Muyake,
or
and it's my honor to bring you this news
to learn
this
more
way
about our
every
services
Thursday
and
night
book
on
your
the home
event.
It's
of
the
Untold
brand new
Stories.
news, all on DSTV. All the goals, clashes and moments. All of Rashford, Salah and Saka. All in the language of your choice. All in HD. Available on all these weekdays to
Katika
choose
majengo
from.
haya,
On all these
hapa ndipo
devices.
sheria
Dial
zinapotungwa
star
na
423 hash or
zinapopangwa.
download my DSTV app to get a DSTV HD
Mirengo
decoder with
mbalimbali
1 month
wote
of
kwa
family
pamoja
for just
wakifika na kupakua
2,999
tutawapa
Kenya shillings.
nafasi
It's the
kuweza
Premier League
kuangazia
on
changamoto
DSTV.
na mafanikio ya ugatuzi katika ukumbi wa siasa kila siku ya Jumanne kuanzia saa 1 kamili na kuendelea. Welcome back.
Toka eneo hili la Naivasha
One of the biggest
kwenye
challenges
kaunti
that I also that we face is that we
032
are still facing with
gatuzi
this
la
campaign
Nakuru.
is that we need over 25,000 signatures to make sure, because it's a world of numbers. Yeah, and we are talking to politicians. Yeah, if politicians are not seeing numbers, then probably whatever you're talking about, it does not matter. So we are facing a challenge of very minimal uptake in signing the petition. And we need 25,000 signatures. Currently, I think we are at 2,000. Look at that deficit of the numbers that we are facing. So the lack, it still takes me back to the lack of awareness. Yeah, the people do not know why is this important. Yeah, and I do not want to sound like a sadist, but disability is a club that anybody can join at any time. So the faster you make yourself aware of what is happening in a person with a disabilities world, the better for you. What we want to achieve at the end of the day is, so from the organization that we are petitioning basically to have these signatures to go to the UN General Assembly in September and say, hey, here are this number of persons with disabilities. They are saying that you are forgetting about them. Could you fast track the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals so that they get to enjoy their life to the fullest? Basically, That's what I would say. And to somebody who is watching us right now, if you can and you come across the petition, just sign it and share it with as many people as possible, because goal number 17 is about partnerships to achieve the overall 16 goals, because we cannot achieve it only as persons with disabilities. And every sector runs away with the SDGs that sort of speak to what they do on a daily basis. There are those who would, the organizations who work around eradicating poverty, they run away with SDG number 1. There are those who work towards climate sustainability and climate change justice, and they run away with. So as you are running away with something, with an SDG that speaks to you, remember SDG number 17, which speaks to collaboration, to making sure that we holistically get to achieve the SDGs by 2030.
My name is Albright Alitsi, and I'm a social work graduate, and I'm also a person living with multiple disabilities, both my arm and hearing. Yes. Being honest, I don't think they're really included, because actually the vision is here and it's almost ending, and the improvement is really little. For example, when it comes to education-wise, and also when it comes to job searching, things like that, people with disability face a lot of discrimination and prejudice. The campaign that we've started, the Site Saver campaign, has really been a good module for me. Personally, I can say, because through my social media, I've shared with other people, and I can see like at least people are supporting. So people with disability are supposed to be included in a nice way, because they're still lacking behind. You know, some even they don't know what the SDG mean, the Sustainable Development Goal mean. They're like floating up on it here. The government has a lot to improve, most especially in goal number 1, which talks about no poverty, because there's really a lot of poverty, and people with disability, like for example in the slums, they're really struggling, because I've met some of them. They have no food and hunger. Yeah, it's too much. Yes, I deal with the society, and society is a major group of people that are included together, like in community. They should always be called upon, and then they can be shown initiative on what they can do, like job creation, because sometimes depending on other people's job is too tough, so they can start on their own. The education sector is really failing terribly, like a lot, because most of the disabled people, because that's what I'm focusing on, most are not educated, and they have so many reasons, like so many reasons, like dealing with money, and that's a lot of, it's a big issue. When the summit happened, I think they included the able ones more than the differently abled. Personally, I've really experienced a lot of discrimination in these governmental organizations, especially when it comes to looking for job opportunities. Like it's been 6 months since I graduated. I've been going from door to door looking for works, and still negative. It's not fruitful, and I'm a graduate, and I think like they prefer hiring people who are okay, more than the disabled one. Yeah, which I find weird. During my research, I came to find out that there are so many disabled people in the estates, and their parents tend to hide the children, which is something wrong. They hide them, like you'll find they're hidden, and they don't get education. It's like it's a taboo or a curse or something like that. Yeah. When it comes to the private sector, I like to talk about 2 things. The first one is tribalism. Yeah, tribalism even among the people with disability. And the second thing is the discrimination also. There's really no inclusion. You can find in private sector, they think like people with disability are just like it's a sickness or something like that. And while it's not. You can see like a person like me, I've never been to any of those summits, and I identify as a person with disability. I feel like I'm also left out in a big way. I just need equality, because I know the struggles are real. Yes, that's what I just need. I'd say the society should stop looking at people with disability like the something like plant, because we are just human beings. We're just human beings.
Hi, my name is Esther Kendi. Sign language interpreter is very, very important. You're going to give a public speech, but you've lost your voice. How are you going to give that speech? So you're telling this deaf person to get there and not hear what's happening and not know what's really going on around. So I feel as much as in a very big way, people don't really understand the importance of a sign language interpreter, they really have a very important role in every other meeting in every other space, whether the deaf are there or if they're not there, because we view some things online, how they don't have captions, they don't have an interpreter, how are this person supposed to consume such content? One thing, considering we're talking about like the SDG summit that's supposed to be happening in New York, if we have representatives from different countries and we have deaf people from different countries, one thing people have to understand is that sign language is actually cultural in a very big way. So if you're coming to Kenya as someone from USA, you have to have someone who understands American Sign Language, because that way you can communicate. The same way when we Kenyans can try to communicate, we're speaking in English to someone in a different country, but we're not really understanding one another. So sign language being cultural, each country has its own sign language. It's very, very important to consider an interpreter who's ready to actually work with such a crowd, or provide an interpreter from each country who is going to be representing a deaf person in each country. That way communication is clear and fluent. How do I say? Before you come to this community of the deaf, you don't see it, you don't understand how important it is until you get to it. And the other day I was interacting with someone who said that they went to a different country that they only speak French most of the places. So if you want to buy something, you have to point it. This is what I want. If it's communicating how much is it, it becomes a bigger issue. So you can imagine you being in a place, you can't communicate with this person, or you can't pass a message across. So it's actually very important for the public to actually even know some basic sign language, because at the end of the day, whenever they go anywhere, whenever they need to purchase anything, whenever any problem erupts, you can be able to have some level of communication. We actually get to feel the pressure when we go to any other tribe. If you're a Kikuyu, you've gone to the lowland, and people are communicating around you, you feel like they were just gossiping about me, and maybe they were even giving a compliment and you don't know it. So you can imagine the feeling that they have, because they're facing this everywhere they go. So it's actually very important for everyone to actually even learn some basic sign language. That way, even if something happens, you can be able to tell this person what's really happening around them, and then that way they're included. That notion, we actually ask people, one day when watching the news, put it on mute and then tell me what the person is saying. So when you're watching the news, you're telling this person to actually lip read what the anchor is saying. How are you going to get what's really happening? Nothing. So when you're saying when someone can actually voice, or they have some level of speech, they don't need an interpreter. It's like telling them to do miracle by actually getting to understand each and everything you're saying from your lips. I've actually been told sometimes I speak so fast, and you can't really say or get everything that I'm saying by lip reading my mouth. So you can imagine I'm speaking to someone, you're telling them to actually read what I'm saying. And that time, I'm not like, so how are they going to be getting? And each and every person speaks differently. So it's actually impossible to tell people that if you have some level of voicing, you don't need an interpreter. You can voice, you have a voice, but it doesn't mean you're not deaf. It actually shows you cannot hear, but you can voice. I want to advise all the viewers, please, if you're able to actually learn sign language, make sure you take the opportunity, because it's very, very important. This is because the deaf community is growing, and we cannot build a society where there are no deaf people. So please, if you're able, try and learn some basic sign language. Then